Alright, so first thing I'm going to do, I have this little table here, and I am going to name this, YTAC class today is 428, so I'm just going to put that in here real fast. Hang on. Alright, I have just a little chart here, and this is how we're going to be organizing our information. You can do this with all sorts of stuff. You can have these be different numbers, anything you want. There are a lot of applications with sheets, but for this one we have 4 people. We have Gregory, Dillip, Cromsler, and Hot Dog. These are our 4 characters, and with it, it obviously has the height of each, the weight of each, and the age of each. So I'm going to give some general, we're going to do some general sort of computation with this information on this table. And this will lend into a little bit more on the assignment, which I'll explain when we get there. But there's a couple things that's very useful for this. Like the assignment will have something to do with finance and just like keeping track of personal records and that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of things that you can do with sheets and this sort of stuff. Like for YTAC, for instance, one very helpful thing we use sheets for is all of our attendance. We have everybody's name, everybody's Discord name, everybody's what house they're in YTAC, and then we have whether they are present or not. And so we can do sort of Excel functions similar to what we're doing here, and we can get an estimate, and we can get some final values to find things about some commonalities in the functions, if we can see specific people and information. So if we wanted to just look up a certain person, how they're doing, that kind of thing, that stuff is available in our various sheets. Another thing we use sheets for is things like our payout system, like how much money is being recorded from whenever you win a tourney, or if you win a raffle here, or if you refer the most people on that last week, that sort of thing. Whenever you have money, that sort of thing is put in through YTAC and into sheets for YTAC. So there's a lot of organization purposes that you can do here. So I'm just going to go ahead and show for this example what we could potentially be doing. This is a very small data set. There are only 4 different elements with their own attributes to them. I don't think we'll be doing any in this class, maybe a little bit, but there's sometimes you can download files of either like CSV, which is a file type for comma separated values. You can get various Excel things that you download, and it'll just be massive amounts of data. I used a couple years back Excel for a final project, and it was about air quality for every single county in the United States. So I had this massive sheet, thousands of lines for multiple lines for every county, and it was very useful to use sheets because I could instantly get computation about it, and I could find things like, okay, in this massive range, obviously this is only 4, but you can see as the application grows with more complex systems. But I can find things like the highest value, the min, the max, the average, the mean, the median, the range, everything like that. All that sort of stuff is very useful to have, and Sheets is a very good place to do it. It's a very wonderful place to organize that. But I'm going to get moving on to what we're doing here. Stop with that rambling about the wonderful nature of this program. And I'm just going to kind of walk through a few things that I want to do with this table of information. That's going to show you some various functions. First thing is, I want to know how many of these people can drink. How many of them are old enough, over 21, at that legal drinking age, right? And I can obviously see this guy is 25, he can. Dillip is 19, he cannot. This guy is 15,000 years old, he can probably drink. And this guy's, about a month old, so no. I can easily count. There's 1, there's 2. But I do want to have it automated. Again, try and put in perspective of a much larger data set. This is just getting into understandable values. So I'm going to get over here. I'm going to ask this over 21. That's plain text. Just want to have an indicator here. And then I'm going to have this be a function. And I'm going to introduce something called the COUNTIF command. So if we just do count will just find how many pieces of data are in a set, as it says right here. But I want it to specifically be COUNTIF. If I just said count for this data set, it would just say 1, 2, 3, 4. Easy peasy. But I don't want it to do that. I want it to count with this specific conditional. So I took my range here. The COUNTIF syntax is COUNTIF range and then the condition. We're going to use that separate with a comma, and then our condition is going to be in quotes, and we're going to say is greater than or equal to 21. Close everything off, and it shows us 2. Very easy, very simple stuff, very useful function for a lot of things. I'm just going to keep on moving through here and just covering different functions that are very useful as we're going through. Next one is a staple. It's used so frequently. It's called the sum. It's basically just addition, but it's like sigma. If you took, I think that's in pre-cal, that symbol right there represents sum, and it's saying add all the things in this range together. So if I wanted to, I could say for this example, I'm going to take C2 plus C3 plus C4 plus C5, and that gives me the total weight, but that was kind of a lot of typing already, and that's already only 4 pieces of data. So I'm just going to use the sum command. All caps, sum, and then I just highlight the range. Boom. Done. Easy. Sum syntax is just the sum, all caps, and then parentheses, the range inside. Or if you don't have a range, you could just say reference specific cells. So we could say this is sum, and then I don't know, we'll say of 25, comma, and then you just find your pick and choose. But sum is a very useful addition function. Over here, what I'm going to do, I'll go ahead and highlight these 3 cells. Is I'm going to have something that tells me using the index command. I'm going to have something that regurgitates information based on the name of each person and the measurement of each person. So if I put here a name, I could say, tell me about Gregory, and I want to know his age. If I just put that there, I want this cell to right here to output a number that is dependent on, looks in this column and says, we're looking in the row Gregory in the age column, and there's our cross section right there, 25. So for this, we're going to use the index command, but more specifically, this is sort of like VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP if you did a little bit of VLOOKUP, but this is going to be a little bit more advanced. Gives you both of the axes and the same line of code here. And what I want this to do is find our value for Gregory here. So the first thing you have in your syntax here is your range. What are we looking at? What's our reference? So the reference is right here. This is the table that I want Google Sheets to look at. We're going to separate everything with a comma always. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use our syntax to find our my mistake. Index, a little fast, get that back. There's our reference. All right. Now, we want to find our row, which the row is determined by our name here. In this case, Gregory. It's in the A column. We'll determine which row we're doing here. So we're going to actually use another command here, 2-in-1, which is something that's very useful, especially some of you already figured that out with the last one, but you can do multiple commands. It does not have to be at the start. We're going to use the match command. So you can see here it gives you a little description, position of an item range that matches the value. So if we said match F2, that's going to look for Gregory at what it's in the F2, and then it's going to look for it in the range of we only want it to look in the column for it. So we're just going to go ahead and highlight this, and that is our column. Once you're done there, just put 0. That 0 is just kind of syntax, just like how we had false at the end of VLOOKUP, sort of that 1 or 0 boolean. And then this is our row that we're looking up. Here's our reference. Now we're going to look for the column. And we're going to use the same match command. We're going to get an open parenthesis here, and we're going to look for the age. We're looking for what says age in that in this top row here to find which specifically column we're going to go into. Then we do have to give it the where to look for it, which is right there, and we just close it off. So if we run that, it says 25, which is the age of Gregory. One important note for the match command is that the match command can only work in a single row or column. So it can do this, that's fine. It can do this, that's fine, but it cannot do this. That's not okay. Now, we can alter this and we say, well, what if I want to know Dilip's age? This is going to be 19. What if I actually want to know age? I want to know the height. And there's the height of Dilip. And that's what you can change and alter that and just call on the reference for this index. But what I want to do here is give just a little more code to make this a little bit more interesting. Because coding is fun, right? So I want this to use a function called choose, which says here choose an element from a list based on an index. The index is what position in the list. But I don't want to, if I could just say our index, or our position rather, and let's just say it's 1, and then we're going to have our list, which is choice 1, comma, choice 2, comma, going on for however many choices you have. So for this example, we have A2, A3, A4, A5. And if I just did that, that's just a more complicated way to say Gregory or Dilip. But I don't really want it to do that. I want it to pick one for me. Just choose a random one. And this is where we're going to use actually another command called randBetween, which looks for an integer in a given value. For here, I'll say 1 and 4 because we have 1, 2 between this first one and the second, or the fourth one in the index. And if we run that, it'll choose someone random. Unfortunately, there's no real way to run a single cell. But I am going to go through it real fast and add these absolute referencing. Using the $sign makes it so that it references specifically this quadrant and not another one. Oh, this is supposed to say A. Okay. So now it says it's going to pick Gregory for us. If we run over, it'll say Kromsler, Gregory again, and then just every time we run that, it'll give us a different person. Wonderful. Next we're going to change is the height. I want to do the exact same thing, so I'm just going to copy this code and put it right in here, except instead of this A2 through A5, we're actually going to have it on our B1 through through D1. We only have the 3, so I'll go ahead and get rid of one of those right now. Change that, D1, change this range right there, and that will give us a random weight and a random attribute and a random person every time it's run, which, like I said, is a little bit you can't just run a single cell. That's fine. So that's actually all of the specific code, functions I want to show you, and it'll be to a slightly higher degree on this Sheets homework that you are going to be doing. Now it's going to have a similar sort of appearance to last time, where I'm going to highlight it's actually inverted from last time on accident, but the the cells that are highlighted in neon yellow will be the cells that you are going to put a function into. So a function will just like, it will start with equal sign and then you'll have some code. So you can't just input a number there. And then there'll be some green text boxes where you can input things. I'll go ahead and drag it over here so you can see it. This is just a very simple, like I said, finance related thing. We have the price for these various expenses, and then I gave them just arbitrary importance values on the scale of 1 to 10. We have an income through our various items here, and then just says the amount. So this is a very simple assignment, but really you just have to, wherever, like here, the prompts, right? You're going to look for the total income, which means you'd want to use maybe the sum command here on these income values. And then you go through and find the various, answer the various thing. All of the commands that you will need to do, all the functions, I showed you in here. And I can make this, at the end of class, I will make this and this available to you so that you can see how it worked in here and then translate it over onto this one. There's also a importance versus price graph here. I'm not going to show you how. Oh, just same thing like last time, except adding a trend line, which is just fiddle around if you go to edit chart and just kind of look in customize and just kind of look in here, and it's in there on the chart settings for it. But I'm actually just made this a little more of a simple assignment for this week because this is something that is actually a useful skill to help manage your costs and your incomes and that sort of stuff. I'm not sure if I'm making myself look pretty old here, but having this sort of ability to manage your income and your outcome, or doesn't seem right, but how you're gaining and spending money and getting that on track is useful. A little less so with everything being digital and most purchases being made with card or PayPal or stuff like that. But this is something that is very useful, especially if you're thinking about going into a field of accounting or some sort of finance, some sort of management, and getting a way to understand this. So, this video will be put up onto YouTube, and well, if you're watching the recording now, it's obvious, as well as these 2 sheets will be available to you in the Discord. As always, you have until next class on Wednesday to complete this very simple little expense sheet, and that will be for the $25 raffle. Every entry for this previous week was valid, so I don't think there were any questions. I need to go back over that. If you do have a question, feel free to ask me. I am always available. And yeah, thank you.